Remember I mentioned annoying habits don't teach anybody anything new. Well, the whole point of you speaking is to teach somebody something new, right? Hopefully, if it's a sales pitch, if it's a presentation, if it's a documentary, you have to teach them something new. Well, is there a good way to do that? Because you need to trigger their dopamines. That's what stories is for. Remember I was speaking about how like a lot of YouTubers, they use stories. Stories promote your dopamine receptors. In that case, you want to listen to them more. And that's what stories are, why they're good, because they also teach you something new. If it's an educational stories, unless it's again some bullshit stories. If you want to look at the different types of stories, check out the previous vid. But is there a better, like, best way to teach somebody something new? There is. You know how? I'll give you two examples. Intel comes up with a new chip. That chip is twice as powerful as the previous chip. Let's say they say that. They say this chip is twice as powerful as the other chip that we had. That's it. You might buy it, you might not buy it. What if they say, the other scenario, this chip can power your computer. Every single app that you click on is going to be twice as fast. Every single search you do, you're going to get twice as much results. Now that might not necessarily be true, but let's say every single game you launch, it's going to load twice as fast. It's going to load, any website you go on, appropriate website you go on, it's going to load twice as fast. Any sort of social media conversation for your grandparents, anybody, you're going to be able to have twice as good of a connection. You'll keep listing how this chip is gonna actually benefit the person you're trying to do. That's the same thing with sell me this pen. Well, that's the trick, is you see, not everybody wants the pen. You have to talk to the person. You have to make sure, well, number one, if the person doesn't need a pen, just don't even sell them, skip them. But the other thing is, you have to make sure, you have to understand what the other person wants. That's the whole key. You have to sell them the product that fits their needs, because they wouldn't buy otherwise. Intel, why would you use that? Compare this. This is an old club used in the 1980s. A lot of people played with it. It was super popular. You want to buy it? Versus the most popular club used back in the day. Tiger Woods and other legends, when they were little young kids, they used this specific club because it would fit their grip super well. Super nice, optimized design, especially for young beginner players. Now this appeals to the audience who's just starting out. Well, Tiger Woods used this. What? I want to use this too, goddamn. Like, that's some powerful stuff. Other legendary golfers use this. That's crazy. I want to use this too. It's a lot better than saying this was the most popular club used back in the 1980s. Right? Now, notice I moved too. Notice I pulled out the club, I moved. I made your attention shift a little bit. I gave you a break in your flow state of attention to me. That's good to do. Remember, walking off stage, I talked about this. Use that stuff. It's a perfect example. You have to deliver jaw-dropping moments. 1 second, I gotta go salam alaikum this motherfucker. Alright. So, that was a jaw-dropping moment, actually. You gotta do stuff like that. I didn't plan this. Now, more specifically, with jaw-dropping moments, there's two types. One is you have to be a little bit influential in order to do this, but try to make yourself into a sort of meme, in a sense. Make yourself into something that's like so popular that people use this all the time. I'll give you an example. Remember Kobe Bryant, when he would shoot his balls, he would take a ball and he'd go, Kobe, why is this used everywhere now? It's because of popularity. This became a meme in a sense. So now whenever you make a Kobe, you think of him. Now the other side is a little more controversial. Back when I had a professor, I was talking to him about this. I said, controversials, that's good, right? He says, controversials, it's not the best. Because again, it can work, it really can boost you. How did Tate become popular? Stuff like that. You know those Zoom bombing videos? People go into Zoom and then they put some clip of Andrew Tate or something and they bomb the class. Well, if you really want to go that route, then your controversy has to be so good, it has to be so insane, so outlandish, that you can go and put yourself in a Zoom bomb video, and it will take everybody's attention from there. That's how insane it has to be. Again, I don't recommend it. Probably not the best. You decide. Key here, use descriptive stuff. You know when I made that video about like snacks? I use this either meaningful, that's either beautiful exceptionally, that's either super surprising, or even something that's really disgusting. You have to appeal to the senses. That is key. Sense appealing. What did I do in my video about snacks? I used the disgusting way, and I'll show you how I did. Well, the method, it's not the way. But I was describing a Snickers bar. If you take a look, I said that a Snickers bar, you wake up, you have this slimy mouth, you take your Snickers bar, you put that in your gunky mouth with all the junk on your teeth, you eat it, it goes down your slimy esophagus. Your slimy esophagus, it flops down in your stomach acid. It gurgles like and then it goes through your disgusting stomach acid into your intestines, and it gets pushed and pushed, that little blob of Snickers that's artificial, that's not even real food, that's made in a lab. That's appealing to the disgusting sensor. That's way better. Imagine if I just said, you wake up, you eat a Snickers. What the hell, man? Okay, I eat a Snickers. So what? That doesn't appeal to any senses. Use description. It's super good. It requires a little more effort. It's worth it 100%. And aside from the descriptive, you know what you can also use? You can use humor, lightening up. Why not lighten up? You know what this does? Humor, it lowers defenses of your audience. How do you get inside your audience? How do you lower their defenses? It's humor. Not only does it lower your audience's defenses, it also makes you more likable. I don't really care about being likable, to be honest. You might. There's nothing wrong with that. In order to do that, what you should do is appeal, use humor. You'll appeal to the sense, that emotion of humor. You will be more likable. You'll be more trustworthy. And your audience will enjoy this more. I just had some birds land. Check this out. See them? Birds. Actually pretty sure that these birds, they come into your lawn. That's not good, because they eat these like bugs that destroy your lawn completely. So that means you have the bugs that destroy your lawn. That's not good. Keep your lawn healthy and trimmed. In fact, keep both lawns healthy and trimmed. That's some humor right there, bro. Again, not planned. Goddamn, again. So unplanned humor right here. We have to so funny. Okay, so your appeals of physicality, like your presence, you can be big and strong. For example, like when you walk in, if you point your toes inwards like a bear, like your feet are pointed inwards, that shows less confidence. If you point your toes outward, that shows more dominance.
For example, here Keanu Reeves has his feet pointed inwards and looks like he's almost out of place. Here, Keanu Reeves is sitting with his feet pointed a little bit outwards, giving a more confident look.
If you straighten up, that shows more dominance. What I personally like to do when I walk in a room is I like to eye people down. Might be silly, but like, it makes me feel more dominant. Same with humor. Humor can enhance your presence. If you're a funny guy, well, your presence gets more known. It's like, whoa, who is this guy all of a sudden? He's a funny guy. Well, I've never noticed him before. Listen to this carefully. Laughter not only promotes cognitive information, it enhances positive emotion in others, making them open up, changing the mood of the person. Remember again, laughter not only conveys cognitive information, it also helps you influence the mood of the other person. Just by making them laugh, you accelerate everything. Your friendliness towards them, your presence, and you accelerate they're trustworthy in you. So you seem more likable, you seem more trustworthy. They want to be with you, they want to hang out with you. Simply by using laughter. But there's a thing in terms of laughter. Well, you can tell jokes, right? No. Don't use jokes. That is a huge mistake. I'll get into that in a second. 2 types of humor that you could use. Negative humor, positive humor. What is negative humor? Pretty self-explanatory. It's usually when you put somebody else down. When you put down other people, you say like, "Ha, you're a fat ass." Like, it's just so basic, It's cliche, maybe it's not like, but some people laugh like that's the basic of like sort of negative humor. I'm not saying you can't use that. Maybe in some cases you could use it. It's just not preferable. Depends on who you're with. Now, the preferred way to use humor is the positive way, which is you point out funny things or you point out absurdities. So, for example, let's say, like you're speaking to a camera and then you accidentally spit. You'd be like, "Oh, guys, I'm sorry, I just spit all over the camera. Whoa, that's disgusting." The basic cliche example, you've all seen this, and don't lie, you have seen this. When you're, for example, in some school and the teacher's lecturing, then something happens or something crazy goes out, like, I don't know, some fire alarm, or I don't know, in the job setting, like maybe something goes off and they're like, "Well, that's interesting." You find the absurdity that happened, that interrupted your speech maybe, and you point it out. That kind of sounds funny in a way. And everybody's like, "Hey, hey, hey, hey," like giggling, even though it's not fucking funny. That's the type of humor they're talking about. But the biggest mistake, avoid telling jokes. Those funny, like comedian type jokes. No, 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 no. Please don't do that. That's the only thing I agree. Like, dad jokes, they suck, bro. Like, don't do that stuff. Now, there's no BS ways to say humor. I'll tell you them right now. But remember, avoid using jokes. Please don't do that. It'll make you look like a stupid. Even in pickup, when you're talking to some girl, God damn, please, this is what I don't like. Don't use those jokes. It's like using a pickup line to pick up a chick, It's like the same thing as like walking to a girl and saying, "Hey, are you from Tennessee? Because you're the one in Tennessee." Complete garbage. Please don't do that stuff. You get the point, right? Now, before I actually tell you the no BS ways, well, when do you want to use humor? Because you can use humor in specific situations. When it's tense. A tense moment. Tense moment is super important. You lighten up the mood. That's what they're for. They're like a little, like when it's a tight spot, you like lubricate it. When the door hinge can't move because it's so rusty, you lubricate a little bit, it starts moving, versus using just force to like brute force to just open that door. You use a little bit of lubricant and you open that door. 3 ways. Number 1 is observations, which I talked about. Let's say like you're talking, and again, let's say you accidentally burp during a conversation, and you're like, "Whoops, that wasn't very polite. Excuse me, guys." Everybody's like, "Ha ha ha," Another thing is metaphors. You can use metaphors, and I have a personal example for this. I was at work the other day, and there's this kid I work with, like a black kid, and we're like good friends, we always talk, and we were walking in the sun, and I noticed he had like a sleeve shirt on, and I was like, "Bro, you're gonna get a farmer's tan," and we started talking, and I was like, "Can African Americans tan?" Now, that was a genuine question. I assumed that, like, maybe a little bit, but I wasn't 100% sure. So I exaggerated a little bit. Now, again, you can't be like, that's the different types of humor you can use. You can use, like, offensive humor, which you shouldn't use that. Or you can use normal humor. In this case, I was being, we were, like, chatting. We had a friendly conversation. And I was like, "Yo, is that actually, like, can you do that?" He says, and he just starts laughing for some reason. And I'm like, "Bro, what's so funny?" Like, because I wasn't sure. I'm like, "Can you?" He's like, "Of course we can." And I'm like, "Oh, okay." Because, in Russia, you don't find a lot of African Americans people. So I genuinely didn't know. And funny stuff like that. That's a simple way to use metaphors. So you kind of, sometimes you, like, exaggerate. Like, you might be a little bit sure, but you're not fully sure. Same other way, exaggerating. I'd say, like, "I can take on 100 men at the same time. Like, half of them are gonna fall. I'm the best one. I'm the leader. My name means like Rustam. It means like a strong man. Like an Indian, Persian. It's like Persian origins, but same stuff. It's like, yeah, that's what I'm born to do this. Another one, for example, I'm walking past the car and there's this like old guy, baby boomer generation. Like 60 plus, 70-year-old guy, walking by this car. It says "new driver" on it. Now, just for some context, this car is parked like halfway out of the spot. This guy's walking by, he sees that car, he says, "Oh, well, no shit, he's a new driver. No wonder he's a new driver. The way he parks, look at that stuff." We both kind of like, chuckle a little bit. Stuff like that, observations. Then you can use quotes. Quotes, the same thing. You can use something you've heard maybe. A better way to enhance it? This is where the learning of another language comes in. I love to do this stuff. I'll be walking with my friend. He would be saying some stuff. And I'll just spit out some Russian quote out of nowhere. Some wise Russian wisdom, like some quote that I learned. Like, for example, there's a quote, It started raining at one time. And I gave this quote. I said, "Ни сахарный, не растаешь." In Russian, that means if you're not made of sugar, you're not gonna melt. So, like, who cares about the rain? That's kind of the meaning. You can use this in English too. That's just an enhanced way. If you're Spanish, use some Spanish quote. If you're, I don't know, from some other country, use that quote. It makes you seem more intelligent as well. And it's kind of funny, because at this point, it's like, now he uses that. He's like, oh yeah, what did you say about that rain? Like when it starts raining, it'll be like, yeah, ни сахарный, не растаешь. You can use that. You can use your normal language in English. Let's say you're driving to an appointment and you're trying to explain to your audience. You're saying, you're being descriptive, remember, be descriptive. And you're saying, back in 17 something, I remember what Thomas Jefferson would say. He would say, better 2 hours too early than a minute too late. Makes you sound more smart. It also sounds a little bit humorous. That's the type of light humor you use to lighten up the moods. In this book, I'm so proud you've made it to this moment. I'm just genuinely happy because this whole entire series probably taught you more than you have learned in your whole entire high school class on speech. That's how good this is. And you know what? Our brains, in fact, speaking of this, the reason we like humor, I'll explain you why this works. Because who the hell in high school, nobody explains it. They might tell you facts, they never explain how this works. The reason that humor works is because our brains, again, they crave multi-sensory experiences. Or multi-sensory. Is it multi-sensory or multi-sensory? I'll go with multi-sensory. I think that's what it is. I'll prove this to you. You have a slideshow. That's the video. It's just moving, it's moving, it's moving. It's a visual appeal. Let's say you have a slideshow with sounds. You have a slideshow and it has some music in the background. Doesn't that sound a little more interesting than just watching a bland slideshow? And be honest, be honest. You feel a little bit better when it makes you more engaged in the presentation. Now, what if you in fact also add the element of touch? The element of touch. You have the visual, you have the auditory, and you have the touch. That's a video game. Would you rather watch some silent film? Would you rather watch some movie that has sound, like the film that has sound? Or would you rather play a game? Let's say you're a character in that movie, and you're controlling the character, using all three sensors, the visual, the auditory, and the touch. And you can add more sensors. That's how powerful it is. That's how our brain gets stimulated. You understand now? Yeah, see? You're like, oh, that makes sense. That's why these old movies are boring. That's why it's all boring. That's why the new movies, that's why the new games that come out, that you hear them, you watch them with better graphics, and you touch them in the controller version. That's why you feel so good. That's why you're addicted to them, bro. That's why you're addicted to them, what you shouldn't be. Now you might say, why did I start with visuals? Visuals? Why did silent movies start? Why wasn't there like some audio that started? Or why didn't we, for example, instead of having a silent film, we had like a non-visual audio? Because vision, it trumps all your senses. Think about it. Now be honest. Would you rather be deaf or blind? Imagine you can't hear anything, but you still see the butterflies flying, you see the green grass, you see the sunlight, you can touch this stuff, you can see what you're touching, but you just can't hear them. Or would you rather not see anything? You can hear stuff, it's hard for you to touch stuff because you can't see it. And you can't see it, you just see black every single day, day after day, day after day, for years, for decades. I would personally rather be deaf, And this is the point, is because it's been scientifically shown that visual stuff, it overpowers every single sense. That's why we've started by not hearing some audio. That's why we have the silent film. It's a film, it's a visual. It's not an audio because it triggers the most senses. People like it the most. As a matter of fact, what's funny is film is also pictures. Pictures trigger your brain very well. Bullet points. What's funny, this is another ironic thing. School taught us to make, PowerPoint bullet points. to put text in, to put paragraphs in. Paragraphs and text are the worst way to engage visually. Images trump that. Videos trump that. Think about it. I'll prove you again, bro. Screw this stuff. Let's finish strong. I'll prove this to you. Remember a PowerPoint you watched some time back in the day, you know? Can you remember a bullet point that they had? Can you remember the paragraph, the line, the sentences that they have? Can you remember what it was like saying? Can you even remember what it's about? Probably not. Now, imagine you had a poster that was due in 3rd grade. Maybe you did a poster. Let's do this. You did a poster for some, 3rd grade project. Let's say you were in college. Let's go back. Let's keep it like elementary school, like grade school level. You did a little project. Do you remember writing the stuff down, what you were talking about, typing in, maybe let's say, I don't know, let's go a little, let's like 6th to 12th grade or 11th grade, depends on where you are. You did some project and you were doing stuff on it. Do you remember what you typed in the computer? Do you remember the bullet points that you made? Not really. But do you remember the images you put on? Do you remember visually, let's say you were doing a project about the Native Americans. Do you remember putting the paragraphs talking about the Native Americans? Or do you remember the pictures of the Native Americans that you put? Like them in their hats, riding buffalo, and they're all different again. That's a big mistake. So yeah, obviously, there's different types of Native Americans. There's like the ones in the prairies. Excuse me, there's a crazy squirrel. I thought that was the Native Americans, bro. To get me, bro. You have, the different types of Native Americans. You visually remember them. You can picture them. You remember the pictures that you put on the board when you were gluing them on your little board. You don't remember the cutout text that you were gluing on the board. That's the thing. And now let's talk about the optimal presentation length to finish off, because we're on the topic. Well, presentation length. Why should you make your presentations 18 minutes and not above? Because despite your brain craving multisensory experiences, your brain still has a limit. Your brain doesn't want to process so much information. It can't. It starts to lose its focus. That's why anytime, look at TED presentations, they are around 18 minutes and it's been statistically proven. Neurons are firing everywhere. It's like pew, pew, they're burning energy. Your brain, they're transmitting the neurons. They're transmitting the messages. Your neurons, they're working, they're hustling, they're using energy. The energy that's used, it causes you to fatigue. When you fatigue, you can't accept more information. If it's more than 5 or 7 pieces of information, your brain just loses it. It can't handle it. You can do a test if you want. Try to memorize 5 or 7 things. Try to go above it. Probably won't be able to remember. Some people can, but again, not most. The key number. What's the key number? The key number is 3. Think about it. What do you know that has 3 things? Flags of countries. 3 stripes usually. America. Red, white, and blue. Russia. White, blue, and red. Other countries. France. Blue, white, and red. Or, unless I'm mistaken. I'm sorry, guys. I'm sorry, French people. I study French. I'm sorry. I should know the flag. The news stations, BBC, CNN. What are their news stations? The Trinity, for God's sake. The Holy Trinity. There's 3 parts of the Trinity. Bullet points, even in Word document. When you look at a bullet point list, when you look on that little icon, how many bullet points does it give you? It shows a picture of 3 bullet points. There is a dang reason behind this, remember. There's a reason behind this. Because that's the optimal length that our brain likes to process. We like nice numbers. We like the 3s. It helps us a lot. Now, what if you go over 18 minutes? You know what you do? What do? Think about it. Let's say you go over 18 minutes. I'm going to test your knowledge. You go over 18 minutes in a presentation. What should you do? You use stories. What did we learn? What did we learn? You use stories, and you use humor, and you use other things that we learned in order to lighten up the mood, to give your audience a mental break. Once they have a mental break with stories, descriptive stories, and engaging humor, remember the types of humor we learned, you can go ahead and continue giving your juicy, in-depth content.